Bangladesh is on edge, with widespread violence now getting erupted ahead of a crucial verdict in a case filed against former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Cars have been torched, crude cocktail explosions have been reported, and highways remain blocked in multiple districts. In fact, firecracker explosions have also been heard in different parts of the capital, adding to the unease. Now, on the ground, the situation is escalating as the government had to rush in the border guard Bangladesh along with the army and police on the ground to contain the rising unrest. Security, you see, has been tightened nationwide as the International Crimes Tribunal now prepares to deliver its verdict. The case here is linked to alleged crimes committed against humanity during last year's student-led protest by Sheikh Hasina. Meanwhile, the former Prime Minister has denied all of these allegations, but on the ground, the atmosphere remains tense. The Awami League has now called for a 2-day nationwide shutdown, cutting traffic and slowing businesses. Business leaders have responded saying that the instability is hurting confidence in the market. But people, they hope that the 2026 general elections will bring some calm and restore normalcy in the country. Former BGMEA President Qazi has also warned that the unrest could damage Bangladesh's garment industry. It's a crucial industry for the country's economy. And they also fear that the unrest could push the foreign buyers away. Now, Qazi stressed that strong ties need to be maintained with India, while also urging unity and peace at home. Now, viewers, in Bangladesh, this crisis comes after a year since the 2024 student-led uprising that toppled Sheikh Hasina's government and brought in the interim administration led by Muhammad Yunus. So with the Awami League now banned, its leaders are now operating from undisclosed locations, trying to mobilize their support base from social media. But as Bangladesh awaits the tribunal's verdict in Sheikh Hasina's case, the country remains sharply divided and also on high alert. Now, viewers, ahead of the verdict of a special tribunal against former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, her son Sajeeb Wazed has now issued a warning from Washington, D.C. Wazed believes that his mother will be convicted in the case, adding that they are televising the verdict. They are going to convict her and they will probably sentence her to death, is the latest statement that Sheikh Hasina's son has now given out. Speaking with Reuters, Wazed also said that his mother is safe in India and that India is giving her full security. Now, viewers, the verdict in this case will be fully televised and is expected to convict Sheikh Hasina, who has been charged with crimes against humanity for a deadly crackdown that took place in 2024. She denies wrongdoing and says that the case against her is politically motivated. Remember, back in October, Hasina had told Reuters that she could move freely in Delhi. In fact, she called the verdict a political motivated act and said that the verdict was a foregone conclusion. Meanwhile, her son also warned that the supporters of Awami League would block February's national elections if a ban on the party is not lifted, further warning that the protests could now escalate into violence. So now, on the ground, as Bangladesh burns, the Central Committee members of Bangladesh's Nationalist Party, BNP, and garment businessman Qazi has now expressed apprehensions about the worsening law and order situation in the country. Ahead of the big verdict in the case filed against former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Qazi now expressed that the violence has erupted and could escalate. He also called on all the neighbouring countries to come together and fight for peace. In fact, he also referred to India as a big neighbour and expressed hope for good relations with New Delhi in the future. Now, the government businessmen and politicians also voiced optimism that the coming elections in 2026 could offer a new hope to the people of the country. Let's listen in to his statement.
As a country in the 1971, India helped us, and as a freedom fighter, I got my training in Dehradun. And I think India also, we need India with us, and India also need us. Then so we want to go forward, keeping our hands together. And I think as a big country, as a big neighbor, definitely India will respect our sovereignty and our sentiment of our people. We hope and we'll have a very good relation with India also in future.
Now, viewers, a quasi-statement comes as there have been incidents of car arson, cocktail explosions and road blockades being reported across Bangladesh. The government has now deployed border guards in addition to the army and police. People, in fact, have blocked highways by throwing stones at it in several places. Border Guard Bangladesh, we are given to understand, is now clearing the highways. And meanwhile, at large, security has been tightened ahead of a shutdown as the Bangladesh International Crime Tribunal now prepares to deliver a big verdict in Sheikh Hasina's case. Remember, this is a case which is linked to the charges of crimes against humanity that the former Prime Minister committed during her deadly crackdown on students-led protests back in 2024. Remember, these demonstrations are which led to the toppling of Sheikh Hasina's government, after which she fled to India and an interim government headed by Muhammad Yunus came to power in Bangladesh. Now, the country is awaiting the big verdict and political reactions are also pouring in on the same. So, viewers, as the tensions grow ahead of the landmark International Crimes Tribunal verdict against the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, police in Dhaka has now issued a shoot-at-sight order. This is against anyone who gets involved in arson attacks. This directive comes as the security forces are now enforcing maximum alert across the capital, anticipating unrest surrounding the high-profile judgment. Hasina here faces a possible death sentence if convicted. And this is over the last year's military crackdown on a student-led uprising that led to her ouster.